Welcome to another edition of Choice Cuts. I am Ryan Turek, the managing editor of ShockTillYouDrop.com. And today we have a very special guest. We have Oren Peli in the house. Oren, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it, man. I know that we do go way back in terms of, journalist, director. Have interviewed you many times, and I think the first time I talked to you was when Paranormal Activity premiered at Slam Dance.
Yeah, around the time, before it even, was known by the mainstream media.
Yeah, it got picked up and, turned into a phenomenon and a franchise and kind of made you kind of a big deal in Hollywood, sir.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
but
you kind of are. Now you've got a lot of films. I mean, you've got Paranormal Activity, The River just wrapped up, and you have the Chernobyl Diaries on the way, which is based on an original story by you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just clarify what your involvement in it is. I mean, obviously, the materials we get say,
Right.
You're involved, story by. Did you also write the script?
Yes, I came up with the original story and then developed it, and then we brought on two other writers, the Van Dykes, to help polish in the final stages, and also come up with some really cool bits that made it into the movie. And I was also the producer. I produced it with my partner Brian Whitten. So it was directed by Brad Parker. So that was basically kind of like the core team.
Nice. Now, before we get into Chernobyl Diaries, there are a lot of people who don't know kind of where your background a little bit, where you came from. Before Paranormal Activity hit, what were you doing?
I was actually working as a video game programmer for many, many years. And that was my day job until I got really sick of it. And for a variety of reasons, I decided, I just can't do it anymore, and let's see what else I can do. And I had the idea for Paranormal Activity, and seeing how some other movies like Open Water, El Mariachi, and especially Blair Witch Project started by people who didn't really have any connections in the industry, and just raised their own money and created a movie, and it ended up being successful and launched their careers. I figured, well, Paranormal Activity, that's a pretty cool idea. If I pull it off, maybe it will open some doors for me. So I gave it a shot, and thankfully it worked out.
Absolutely, yeah. And now jumping forward to Chernobyl Diaries, talk about the genesis of how it came about. I mean, was this something that you had considered directing yourself?
No, actually, the way it happened is that I was just goofing around on the internet, and I saw some posts somewhere on Pripyat, the abandoned town near Chernobyl. And I've heard about the Chernobyl disaster. I've lived through it. I remember it, but it didn't really occur to me that there was this abandoned town that was evacuated. It wasn't even properly. Usually, when you have an evacuation, people have a chance to take their belongings. Here, people just almost vanished. They were not given a chance to take any of the personal stuff. And if you go there, you see all the personal stuff, and their homes are almost untouched, except that by looters or wildlife. And it's just something very eerie and very sad and very unique about this place. And I started looking online and looked at some videos that people who would go there and just would film and put it on YouTube and photo blogs. And I just thought it was a very sad and very fascinating, and also very eerie, and could be the perfect setting for a horror movie. But I didn't really know if I was going to make it or not. Then one day I'm having dinner with my friend Brian Whitten, and I just mentioned to him, I thought it would always be a cool idea if someone did a horror movie about Chernobyl. And I tell him the idea, and he's like, oh my God, this is so cool, we got to do it. I'm like, no, I'm busy enough, I have too many things going on. And he's like, don't worry about it, we'll get another director, he'll do all the hard work, you won't have to do anything. And then it's like, cut to a year later, and I'm freezing my ass in Eastern Europe. And we did get Brad Parker, the director, who did a phenomenal job, and he really did all the hard work. But it ended up being a lot more work than I thought it would be. But I ended up loving the project, so I'm not complaining. It was a great experience.
Yeah. Where did you wind up shooting in Eastern Europe?
We shot mostly in Serbia and Hungary, outside of Budapest. And we're also using a little bit of stock footage that someone else shot in Pripyat.
Oh, okay.
But nice. we didn't get a chance to actually go there. It was actually closed down because at some point they opened it a few years ago to tourism. At the time that we started shooting, we wanted to go there to shoot, and they just wouldn't let us. So we had to, use different locations. When you
put on your producer cap for a film like this, how involved do you get? I mean, obviously you were on location, on set. Are you kind of one of those producers that kind of helps the director along? I mean, especially when you're there at the story level, for you. Or do you kind of give hands off?
Well, in this particular project, I was very involved because I was both the producer and the writer. So, we had a very collaborative environment between me, my producing partner, Brian Witten, and Brad, the director. Brad was definitely the director, so he was in charge of setting up the look and working with the directors and shooting the scenes. But every once in a while, sometimes we would confer and say, let's, use a different approach here. Maybe this line doesn't sound right. Let's, have the actors improvise or come up with a different line. So every once in a while, we had to do that kind of stuff. But most of the time, Brad was definitely in charge, and we were just kind of sitting back and whenever necessary, kind of having, a group meeting and, reevaluating where we are.
Does this qualify as a found footage film, or is it a balance?
It's not a found footage film at all. There's maybe 2 or 3 minutes that are sort of like filmed by the people.
Which we've seen in movies before, where they just come to their camera. And,
exactly, but 98% of the movie is sort of traditional. Now, we'll say that we didn't shoot it as a regular movie. We shot it in sort of like a documentary style. So if you think back of early Paul Greengrass movies, or movies like Children of Men or Traffic or The Wrestler, that are mostly handheld. So that's kind of like the style of it. So you do actually feel like you're going on a ride with our group. Like, for example, as when we're in the car and we're traveling there, the camera always stays inside the car. So we're never saying it's found footage, and it's not pretending to be found footage, but it has a very kind of authentic, raw feel to it.
Does it bother you sometimes that people immediately associate, if something comes out, on the screen from you, people immediately associate, it's another found footage movie?
I guess it's a little expected, even though, Insidious came out and it wasn't found footage at all.
Exactly, yeah.
But I have, had a long track record of having found footage movies. Most of it does not look like found footage, but a lot of people jump to that conclusion anyway. But so it's not found footage.
The release date kind of crept up on us. All of a sudden, it became a summer movie. Does that put a lot of pressure on you as a producer?
Yeah, because when we started talking with Alcon and Warner Brothers, who are distributing the movie, we were trying to figure out what would be a good time for it. And we were looking sort of like, towards the end of the year. Sure. And it's just very crowded with a lot of horror movies. And we figured either we wait for the next year, or maybe it's something a little bit closer. And we looked at Memorial Day, and it seemed like it's a perfect time. There's only one other movie, Men in Black 3, which is a big movie. Yeah. But we figured, it'll be very, sort of like counter-programming to Men in Black.
That's a key word.
And then the problem was like, holy crap, are we going to be able to finish it in time? And we just really had to jam on it and finish the, editing and accelerate the visual effects and audio mix. And we had like a very, strict schedule, and thankfully we met all the deadlines. So, now the movie is all locked and done, and, everything's ready. Yeah.
How does it differ from the other projects you've been involved with on a scare level? Well,
I think it's kind of hard to compare, but I think it probably does have a lot of similar themes. There's as opposed to, for example, Paranormal Activity and Insidious that takes place in your house. Now we're in a different environment. It's you're in a big abandoned city. Battling something unknown, and you're not sure what it is. And we have the whole, kind of foreign element. You're in a foreign environment. But a lot of the scares would be, fairly similar. You have a lot of tense moments and kind of slow build-up, and you have a lot of kind of shocking moments. So I think people who, enjoyed, if enjoyed is a good word, my previous movies, they'll probably get a kick out of this one.
Looking back on the river, how did that fare for you? I mean, did it turn out exactly as you anticipated?
Well, the river was definitely a very interesting experience. It was a great opportunity to, do something that, not many people get to do a TV show for prime time with Steven Spielberg. You do have to, sometimes make some compromises when you do a TV show for a network. I think, like, I feel like we got a lot of things right. And a lot of things, some people say, like, maybe we kind of missed the mark. But we did find, like, kind of like our core audience that became very loyal. So, maybe it didn't have enough appeal for kind of like the mainstream. But I do feel like a lot of the core fans do like the show and are kind of, very loyal to it.
And you're moving on to the next Paranormal Activity. The fourth one's coming out this October. Obviously, you and Jason and the rest of the team kind of have a formula down to a science in terms of production and, just knowing when to start and, you got it down, Pat. I think you guys, how long are you going to be able to keep this up?
Well, I think it's really as long as we can create those movies that the fans like, and if there's going to be a demand for another movie, we kind of go one at a time. After the first one, I had no idea that we're going to have Paranormal Activity 2, and I didn't even know what would be a good idea for a story for Paranormal 2. And then Michael Perry, the writer, came to us with the idea of kind of going back in time and followed the sister. And we thought, wow, that actually is a great idea. Could make a lot of sense. Yeah. Let's see if we can pull it off. And the movie turned out, people liked it and it turned out good. And we said, let's try to do it again. And the third one turned out great, and the fans seem to, really love it. So now we're going to do the fourth one. We have no idea how it's going to turn out. We have no idea how the fans are going to respond, but if it's going to be successful and it seems like there is demand for another one, maybe then, we'll think about another one, but we really take it, one at a time. One at a time,
yeah. On a personal level, where do you see your own strengths? I mean, do you see your strengths as kind of an idea guy, a producer, a director? What do you want to pursue more?
That's a good question, and so far I've kind of had a chance to do a little bit of everything, a little bit of writing and producing, and also as producing, there's been some projects that have been more hands-on, others that have been more hands-off, and just about every one of those has advantages. Sometimes it's really fun to be part of a big creative group and be a producer and work with extremely talented people and, enjoy the success of a movie. And, sometimes it's more fun to be kind of like more of the creative force and be more hands-on. It's more pressure and more hard work, but also you get more sense of like ownership of your baby. So I'm actually enjoying just about everything that I've had a chance to do, and I'm feeling just very lucky that I'm giving a chance to do it. So I'll try to do it as much as I can. Probably at some point I'll try to maybe branch out a little bit out of horror and go to like more thrillers and stuff beyond the genre stuff. But for now I'm just enjoying the ride.
Good luck with that. Keep the shield up. And thanks for coming on the show, man.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks. And that's it for this episode. Check out Chernobyl Diaries in theaters on May
25th.
25th.
Memorial Day.
So you got Men in Black 3 and Chernobyl Diaries. I think you should go see Chernobyl Diaries. Men in Black seems like a little sequel. It's a little too late for me. So. All right. Well, thanks again, and stay tuned next week for a new episode of Choice Cuts.